All right, it says I'm live, so I'm going to assume I am until someone tells me differently. I have no idea how and I know this table is going to shake too, no idea how the upload speed is here. So I know it's slower than it is at home, so you guys let me know what the audio and the video is like. If you can hear it, let me know. Somebody type in really quickly here in the first 30 seconds. Hey, Michael, the audio and the video is good. I have my doubts because I don't know how fast the upload speed is. I'm at a hotel somewhere in Texas and about to go to the airport here in a couple hours, pick up my daughter, and then head back home in the morning. So if you guys have any questions or comments, put them in the comment section. My name is Michael Bunker. This is the Bunker Nation Show. I'm going to be your host for the evening. Appreciate you guys tuning in. All right, Facebook user says it sounds good. You guys push in here. Everybody get in here, get into the comment section, type in where you are. Say hello, be friendly. Let me know what's going on and where you are. And in the meantime, we're going to do this box thing we got to do, and then we'll come back and chat. All right, Pat, if it says no sound and you're the only one, it's probably you. You need to check your computer, maybe reset or something. I've already gotten one. Sounds good here. So I'm thinking the sound is fine, but you guys keep letting me know before I get going how the sound is. Hello, Aaron. Hello, Hava. Hello, Eric. You guys tell me how the sound and the video are where you are so I can know before I get going too much into this. Arkansas is in the house. Miami's in the house. We've got Montana here. Where else? All right, you guys hit the like button. Everybody else says it sounds good. Looks like Amy's here from Prosper, Texas. Remember, we're on 6 platforms just so you don't get confused when you don't see the comments. I see all the comments on all the different platforms. So we're on 3 Facebook platforms. We are on Periscope, which is Twitter. We are on Twitch, and we're on YouTube. Prefer to see a lot of you on YouTube eventually, and after the show, if you would go over to YouTube and hit the like button, subscribe, etc. Kim's here from Pennsylvania. Ethan's here as well. I think Ethan's in Alaska. Kind of garbled. What are you saying? Everybody else says it's okay. Shemaine is here from Andrews. Good to see you guys. All right, y'all. So it is whatever day this is, Friday, 3 or 4 days, 3 or 4 days after the election. And lots been going on. I haven't been on because there hasn't been much to say, and I haven't had any power at the house. And so, I know people have been going kind of crazy out there wanting to talk about things and all of that. And I've gotten so many messages about people asking when the next show is going to be. Well, here it is. You're saying the sound is garbled. Is anybody else getting garbled sound? Or is it just Ethan? I don't know. Let me know. Let's get this sorted before we get going too far. And so a lot of people are talking about the election, and it's being stole, it's not being stole. There's a lot of things going on, and I'm not up on it. I don't know everything that's going on. I check in every hour or so and kind of look at what's going on. I listen to a little bit of radio, check out some websites and stuff. So we'll see how that goes. Anybody else have any input on the sound, if the sound is okay? Aaron said it's garbled. That could be Terry says he says it's a little garbled. I'm going to keep going because there's nothing I can do about it. It probably has something to do with the upload speed here. So as long as you can hear me, we'll keep going. Aaron says people are really bent out of shape over this election, not just because their guy might lose, but because they don't believe in the process anymore. Well, they should have stopped believing in the process a long time ago. And one of the things we've talked about on this show going back, as long as you guys have been listening to me, some of you for 20 years or more, some of you for 10 years, some of you since March or April, is that we don't focus our attention on events. And what we try to do is be prepared for whatever's going to happen, whatever could happen. We look at all of the likely events. What we're seeing right now was a likely scenario that I went over 2 or 3 days before the election. I went through the likely scenarios. One of the things I talked about over the week before the election was that we very likely would see delays in getting a conclusion, that there would be lawsuits. There was probably, and I did a whole video on which side of the aisle was very likely to be trying to steal the election, not based on any inside information or anything that I knew or conspiracy theories or anything like that, just because I understand the way people act when they're going to do something. So we did a whole video. I'll put a link to it down in the description after the show is over, where I talked about a tactic called flooding the field or flooding the floor, which is quite a common tactic, and we'll get into that here in just a little bit as well. But we talked about all of that. Everything that's happening, we talked about in the weeks leading up to the election. So this is not a surprise. It was predictable, and I'm hoping that everybody planned accordingly. We have no idea what's going to happen, or at least I can't tell you what's going to happen because of the time cops. But we have no idea what's going to happen between now and the end of January, and people need to be prepared. So long as things remain basically stable, I hope everybody's thinking about themselves and their families and their friends and their loved ones and their neighbor, and they are preparing accordingly. We are not the kind of people that ought to be casually dismissing events because of some idea of ceteris paribus or normalcy bias. Have a whole video on normalcy bias. You can just go to YouTube and type in Michael Bunker normalcy bias, and you'll find out what I'm talking about. All right, let me look at a few of the comments here. Christ is still on the throne. That's absolutely true, Nathan. Hello, Scott. Good to see you. If you guys have questions or comments, go ahead and get them in the comment section. So in that video, which I'm going to link to after the show is over, I want to talk a little bit. I talked a little bit about this flooding the floor or flooding the field idea of how you manage a heist or a scam or a con. And this started months and months before the election. There were over 300 lawsuits that were filed that were all designed to increase the amount of data to the point where it was going to be unmanageable on purpose. And those lawsuits in most of these states allowed a lot of machinations to take place that are now being manifest, so that there's so much information. I'm going to talk about that in just a minute. Let me go to the comments. Aaron says, do you have any knowledge about the rules if a candidate can't be decided for? How long can the decision be put off for? I don't know. I don't know how that works. I know that eventually there's steps that it goes through, and eventually it goes to the Congress. And that's happened before. I believe Thomas Jefferson ended up being, I could be wrong, ended up being elected by the Congress. But I don't know exactly what all of those rules are. Amy says, here things are being rationed again. You can only buy a few of certain things at a time. Yeah, and I want to get to that too. We're seeing shutdowns again. A lot of the people I watch on YouTube are in Europe or in Canada, and there's some massive level 5 shutdowns in Europe. And we're starting to see some of that stuff happening again here. And so I know just in our area, there are a lot of reports of increased cases. And so, and there are outbreaks. There's no doubt that it's a virus and people are getting it and all of that. So it's stuff we've been talking about for 6 or 7 months. We expected this right around election time. We talked about it in depth, and I just hope people took the time. Like I said in March on every show, I don't know anything about the virus. I'm not an expert on the virus, but I do know that there are things that are predictable, and human behavior, especially the masked man, is predictable behavior. And I said we were going to see this increase in cases, the shutdowns, we're going to see shortages. We saw shortages in toilet paper. We saw shortages in meat. We saw shortages in a lot of other items. And then I said, come summer, things are going to lighten up and everybody's going to think things have gone back to normal. But they haven't gone back to normal. And so we're starting to see everything. I talked about it right around election time. We're likely to see this coming back. It'd be nice if somebody went back to March. I'm not going to do it. Go back to March and go through all those videos. Day after day after day, I was telling everybody exactly what was going to happen. And it's what's come to pass. And just all of last week, I told you I expected these type of issues with the election, and we're seeing them happening. All right, so we talked in that video about flooding the field, which is basically when you're engaged in a scam or you're engaged in a heist. You saw this on Ocean's 11 or a lot of other, Thomas Crown Affair was one of them, where you just introduce so many variables, so many people that the watchers can't watch. They're not going to be able to see what's going on. It's a shell game, but many, many times over. I don't have to know the details of whether or how a con is going down. You can see it when it's going down because you know what leads up to it and what behavior. And so if you go back to 2018, leading up to the election, we had masses of South Americans, Central Americans marching up through Mexico towards the border. The goal there was to overwhelm the border and to do this, to flood the floor, to cause so many problems, cause so many distractions, to cause so much fear in the American public that it would affect the election. And that was a goal. And as soon as the election was over, that died away. Started seeing that a couple of months ago with the lawsuits that were being filed to flood the field or flood the floor for ballots of every kind, of every nature. Basically, anything that could be called a ballot. If it was a banana, if it was a shoestring, if you could call it somebody can call it a ballot, it should count. And so that's what happened. So we ended up with this massive amount of data and people that got introduced. And because of COVID, which was conveniently here at the time, it allowed a lot of things to happen. And that's what we're seeing that's going on today. A similar situation can happen with a human. And so this is how you can better understand these things. There is a condition. It's not a disease, and it's not an illness or anything. It's called LLI, which is low latent inhibition. And basically what it is that every human has an inhibition level. Don't think of it in the terms of where you're used to using the term inhibition. Basically, it's the way that your brain throttles the amount of data that's coming in. Your brain and your eyes and your senses gather so much information that it's overwhelming. The human brain in its normal state cannot handle all of that information. And so in order for you to be able to function, there are all these systems that are in place to help you get rid of information that's not important. It's called low latent inhibition. It's called your latent inhibition. All right, so the average person has high to medium latent inhibition, which means their system is set so that it gets rid of a lot of information. So when you look around, you don't know it, but your brain has registered every license plate, every color of every car in the parking lot, every billboard, flying by, lots of information, but your brain decides it's not important and it blocks it or it redistributes it so that you're not consciously adopting all of this information. And it does it so that you can continue to manage. If you're walking across the street and you don't have the capability of doing it and you gain too much information at once, you're going to get disoriented or you're going to go crazy and you probably get hit by a car. So most people have medium to high latent inhibition. There's a condition called low latent inhibition where some individuals, and I happen to be one of them, notice. I just call it being a noticer. You notice more things. You see more things. You remember more things. Since I've gotten older, I've lost my hearing. I'm nearly deaf, and my eyes aren't that good anymore, and I have to use these readers. So I don't get as much information as I used to, but I still get way more than most people, way more. If you are particularly low operating, low functional, or low IQ, this can be a problem because it can cause people to go crazy. If you're a high functioning LLI, then that means you just notice more things. You can be more creative. You can, you're able to discern more information from your surroundings. We used to play games when the children were smaller, driving down the road, and at random times they would say, "Dad, what was the last billboard?" Or "Did you see this?" or "Did you see that?" Just to try to catch me. And so that was always fun. But the same thing happens with a human. The human tries to throttle the amount of information coming in. He does it unconsciously so that he's capable of catching things that are important. And so this is what you do when you want to scam, when you want to cheat, is you overwhelm the whatever the apparatus is with too much data. And that's what happened in this election. All right, I'm going to look at the comments here. If you have a question or a comment or you want to talk about something, go ahead and put it in the comment section and we'll talk about it. I'm not supposed to yell. I was told not to yell. And I'm in a hotel right now, so I really can't yell, so I got to keep it down. All right, Biden's connection with China coupled with COVID, it's all a setup. Certainly one theory. All right, shout out from Scotland. Good to see you. Scotland's in the house. We got Texas in the house. We got Montana in the house. Not Africa. Alaska's in the house. By the way, my daughter's on the way from Alaska. She should be here in a couple of hours, Lord willing. Sometimes if you're going through something, you feel it's very important, your brain will collect much more data than usual. It actually does happen, especially in times of trauma. And the hypnotists and others are capable of bringing out more data that people actually did notice. Driving down the street, you may not remember any of the buildings you passed, any of the businesses you passed, things written on the walls, things written on billboards, but you actually do gather that information. Whether or not it passes through your conscious mind is the job of your latent inhibitions to determine how much of that data you get. And so you can actually train yourself to gather more information, to pay attention, to be more in the moment, I guess they would say. But there are people who have the ability to do this at a very high level. And I always thought it was just weird that people didn't notice things. They didn't notice differences, things that had changed, or billboards or signs or structures. And I really started noticing it when the children were small. We used to get paid for picking up snakes on the road. And we lived out in the country on the dirt roads. And every night about 7 o'clock, and every morning about 7 o'clock, there were always snakes out on the road trying to get warm. And so we would go around and pick them up. And for everyone we picked up, we got paid real money. And so I would take the children out. And I noticed that I was really the one that was seeing all the snakes. I noticed them even driving. When I drive fast, my wife would tell you that I notice when there's small animals and snakes or things that are off on the side of the road and all those things. And I would just stop the car. The children would jump out, go pick up the snake. We'd put it in the bucket or whatever. And yes, one time I almost had Tracy pick up a rattlesnake, but she saw it in time, and that was my mistake. I probably shouldn't confess to that one. Alcohol can make you notice things in a different way. That's absolutely true too. It can actually slow down a lot of the information that's coming through. But I think we're still trying to keep in contact with the election information and the flooding the field phenomenon, flooding the floor phenomenon, which we saw. I think if more people focused on the fact that there were hundreds and hundreds of machinations prior to the election that telegraphed all of this, which is why I was able to do a show on it 2 days before the election. Go back, there's going to be a link in the description. You have to wait about 10 minutes after the show, go to YouTube, find me, find the latest live video, go down in the description, and there'll be a link there to that video. It was done before the election, pointing out that this was going on. All right, now what I am not saying, I'm not saying that I have any proof that anything's gone on, and I have no proof. That's never been my point. And I think there's a lot of people that are uncovering those things. But my point all along was that it was predictable that the scenario we're going through is happening. Most of the things that happen in the world are predictable if you know what to look for. And part of the purpose of the Bunker Nation show is to teach you how to see better, how to see these things and understand what's going on, how to logically and reasonably go through data, make decisions, and prepare for likely scenarios. So far, we've done a pretty good job being very right. All right, I want to tell everybody while I'm waiting for you, by the way, to go into the comment section, wherever you are. If you have a question, a comment, or something, it doesn't have to be about politics. Oh, by the way, I didn't even mention, I'm in the middle of my 24-hour McDonald's challenge. For those of you who don't know, or if you're new here, greetings. My name is Michael Bunker. I'm an expert in survival, preparedness, Russian literature. I've got a best-selling book, several best-selling books, including one that's being made into a Hollywood movie. And you can find me on Amazon and all those other places. You can also find my website at michaelmucker.com. But I also have not eaten at McDonald's in over 30 years as of this morning. Over 30 years, because I met my wife 30 years ago in March, she tells me. And when I met her, I told her I don't eat at McDonald's, and I haven't eaten at McDonald's since I've known her. So it's been more than 30 years. I don't know how long it's been, but it's been a lot. I've been to McDonald's maybe 3 times as I was traveling to stop and get a black coffee. So I decided I was going to do a 24-hour challenge where I eat nothing but McDonald's for 24 hours. We started that at, 4 o'clock this morning or so. And so I've been putting my diet for the day so far on Facebook. You can follow me at facebook.com/offgrid, or just search for Michael Bucker on Facebook. I just finished a iced mocha frappe. It is terrible. The point isn't that I'm starting. I will probably never eat McDonald's again. That's not the point. The point was it's a challenge because I haven't done it for 30 years. And since I'm always talking to people about diet, and about my diet in particular, having lost 105 pounds, most of it since January of this year, that I wanted to use this as a teaching tool. And so that's what I'm doing today. It's been as bad as you imagine, but I'm going to keep doing it. We're going to finish it. I got to leave here in a little while, and we're going to go pick up my daughter at the airport. And we'll probably have one more McDonald's before we go to bed. So I just want to let everybody know that's what's happening. Be glad that the camera stops right there, because down here is not doing too good. It's not been too good today. Follow me on Facebook, though, and I put each meal, what I've had, how many calories, how much fat, how much whatnot. And just go to Facebook and send me a friend request. I feel junky already, man. I just feel junky right now. I feel bad. One of the things that was funny, and I did talk about this on the video I'm making about today's challenge, is I was in the bedroom and I was thinking, man, I just can't think clearly. My mind is cloudy, and it just makes me not want to do anything. I've lost any motivation. And I walked out to tell Danielle that, and she says, I just feel cloudy, foggy in the brain. And so, yeah, that's what happened. All right, where are we? What's your thoughts? Oh, hold on, let me back up one. You've probably addressed this before, but when you are preparing for an unknown future, how do you organize your prep assigned hierarchy? Okay, which the first thing you want to do is you want to write down all of the scenarios that are likely. And by likely, I mean that what I try to teach people to do is think about it in 2 directions. When you're looking forward at things, thinking, this is what things look like right now, and also project yourself into the future and look backwards and see what things are likely to have happened. And I've used a lot of examples to explain this in past videos. Once you know there may be 4 or 5 likely scenarios, for an example, I did this about the election. Maybe 2 or 3 days before the election, likely scenarios. You can find that video on YouTube. Then you can assign those likelihoods a probability. And so I think I did that on that video as well. There's no way you're going to be right. You don't have to be right. What you really want to do is, if you have 5 things that are likely to happen, 5 scenarios that are probable, what is something you can do that would be good for all 5 scenarios? So write yourself a list of things that would be smart to do concerning all of those scenarios. And so what we did on that show 2 or 3 shows ago, look for it on YouTube, is I said, here's the things that are likely, and we went through 4 or 5 scenarios, and I said, here's the things that you ought to be doing to prepare that covers all of those things. And so that's the best way to do it. You're not going to be able to narrow it down to one thing, because if you do that, you're probably going to be wrong. Here's another trick. Have friends and watch them over the years. You already have friends. Watch them. Do you have any friends that are always wrong? Like always wrong. I have a couple friends. They are my friends because they're always wrong. They are predictably nearly 100% wrong. They are as valuable to me as a friend that is 100% right. or 95% right, or 85% right. If you have friends like that, pay attention to them, because the one that's always wrong is going to help you eliminate scenarios. And the one that's always right will help you narrow down scenarios. Pay attention to your friends and talk to them and ask questions. Most people spend most of their time talking and not enough time listening. But I keep a few friends around because they are always wrong. That's a valuable thing. I would take them to the racetrack. That's where you want to take the people that are always wrong. All right. Hello, Nancy. Good to see you. From Maine. You wrote a book, a great book in 2002. All right. I already like the way where this comment's going. Swarms of Locusts. Are there any affordable copies around? It's $108 on Amazon. Keep your eyes open. Lord willing, I'm going to have a second edition of that book coming out soon. I don't just want to put out that edition again because there are things that I would like to update, things that have happened since then, including this election. And so I don't know of any that are cheaper. There are a couple sites I would send you to. abebooks.com, A-B-E, books.com. And you can find used books there, sometimes really cheap. And then check eBay as well. And just keep your eye on them. Sometimes somebody will, they just don't know any better, and they'll pop one up there for $25. I know my pastor was able to get one really, really cheap. So just keep your eyes open and check those sites, abebooks.com and ebay.com. Mark says, I watch people, including my friends, which is why I don't have many anymore. Well, here's what most people do, Mark, is when they have a friend that's wrong all the time, they get rid of them. They're tired of them being wrong all the time. Don't get rid of your friends that are wrong all the time. You keep them around. You get rid of the ones that are wrong 50% of the time because they're no good to you. Unless they cook well, they show up, or they're loyal, or they're funny, or they have some other value. If they're only right 50% of the time, then you just never know when they're right. But you want to keep your friends around that are wrong all the time. If you have one like that, I think we all have some friends like that. Maybe you have an uncle or an aunt that spouts off at Thanksgiving or likes to run their mouth. Just listen. If they're always wrong, take them to the racetrack, find out which horses they think are going to win, and bet against those horses. There's actually a movie like that. And so, yeah, just don't get rid of your friends that are wrong all the time, or your friends that are right all the time, even if you disagree with them. If they're wrong all the time or right all the time, they're very, very valuable to have. All right, everybody, we're at 27 minutes and 57 seconds, and we're going to need your questions and comments to keep this ball rolling, because I'm here at the hotel, and the minute this show is over, I'm going to start editing today's video, which is the 24-hour McDonald's challenge. I'm hoping to live through it. I don't feel very good, and I'm not going to be feeling any better for a while, but there is a point to it. I did cut my calories significantly yesterday, increased my cardio. I did work out this morning, did more cardio this morning, and I intend to be fasting tomorrow and doing more cardio tomorrow. So it's not going to be any permanent damage. It was for a point, making a point, and you'll find that out when you watch the video. In the meantime, everybody that's out there, please look down in the description on YouTube when you go there, and there's a link to my fitness channel, which is where that video is going to appear. Please go and subscribe. Subscribe to this channel and subscribe to my fitness channel, which I'm trying to get started. All right, Diane is laughing. That's good. Are there any books you recommend for understanding psychology of the masked man? The best one is I don't have it with me right now, and it is called Revolt of the Masses. Somebody help me out. Ortega y Gasset, I think is the name. Just look up Revolt of the Masses on Amazon. Somebody go there right now, pull it up, find a link to that book. I don't want to say his name wrong. Saying his name wrong is racist today in America. He was Spaniard, white as me, but it's racist to say somebody's name wrong if it's not easy. It's a That book was written between the two wars, World War I and World War II. Is very predictive. It also has a lot of my other philosophies in there, but it's very good about understanding the psychology of the masked man. There's also a lot of very bad books about psychology. All right, if you guys have questions and comments, there's a couple things I want to ask you to do. Make sure you like this video wherever you are. Hit the like button. Likes are free. If you can, as soon as this video is over, wait 5 or 10 minutes, go to YouTube, find me. My name is Michael Bunker. This channel, I go live 2 or 3, 4 times a week, and we talk about things, and the people that are here right now in the comment section will tell you I predict the future, and I do it really, really well. Jose Ortega y Gasset. Thank you, Aaron. I appreciate it. Jose Ortega y Gasset, Gassett. Highly recommend that book. But I predict the future. I get a lot of things right. I'm right 99.6% of the time or so. And if you want to know what's going to happen in the future, tune into this show regularly and ask questions. And you will have the mind of a time traveler. One thing we do all the time as well is we learn how to think. We talk about reason. We talk about logic, logical fallacies. And we teach about all of that kind of stuff, how to see things that you're not seeing right now. And it's a great benefit. People get my last name wrong all the time. All right, well, it's on my screen, it's just AK. I don't know how you get that wrong. That's pretty easy. I'm actually right more than Rush is. I think it's just an amount of time. I actually am only on 3 or 4 days a week, only for 47 minutes. So it's a lot easier to keep your percentage high when you don't have to talk 3 hours a day. Is oxygen deprivation a form of torture? No. I mean, certainly it would be mean, but oxygen deprivation generally results in euphoria and a pleasant feeling before you die. And so, Coon, like Billy Coon. Are you related to Billy Coon? Does anybody know who Billy Coon is? Put it in the comment section if you know who that was. Kuhn. Oxygen deprivation, for the most part, as long as it's not rapid, results in a feeling of euphoria, elation, and sleep, and then death. It's how people die on Mount Rushmore. They generally are warm and happy as they go out. What happens after that, I can't tell you. How long is my daughter going to be in town? I don't know. Nobody tells me anything. I only find out things later. I know she's coming into town, Lord willing, this evening. I know she was on a plane in Seattle, and she's jetting this way. And so we just told her, stay at the airport. Don't go outside in Seattle. It's not safe in Dallas either. We're going to pick her up, and we're going to get out of town. I don't know how long she's going to be in town, but it won't be very long. All right, so I don't know if anybody remembers who Billy Coon is. That's the question right now. Kuhn. First person to get it right doesn't get a reward, but you get kudos. And don't look it up on Google. I know you people out there on your Googles and your Wikipedias looking up stuff. Don't do it. Do like the video, subscribe, hit the bell button. Make sure you share this with your friends. Not enough people are watching my videos, and it's going to take people like you sharing it. If you find it entertaining, slightly amusing, completely ridiculous, then like it and share it and subscribe. Why the masks, do you think? Well, I think there's layers of reasons. The most obvious reason is that it does restrict some level of particulate. I am not a scientist, and I want to go back to March of this year, March 1st or so. I am not an expert on anything unless I tell you I'm an expert. I'm not an epidemiologist. I'm not a doctor. I know nothing about COVID. I don't want to know, and I don't have to know anything about COVID. What I know is human nature, and the thing is not the thing. So I can tell you what I think about why the mask, but I cannot tell you anything about its efficacy other than what I try to teach people on this show is you only think you know something because somebody told it to you. 99.9% of the data or information that's passed around social media that people find, it's just something somebody told them. And so I mentioned we were going to talk about Texas turning the rumor, the myth, the legend that Texas is turning blue, which is not true. And immediately somebody popped in and said, oh, and they bam, all the data that's floating around, it's always wrong. And those people are always wrong. It's not happening. I'll have to do that on the next show. But most people know something just because somebody told it to you. Only thing I could possibly know about the efficacy of masks is what somebody's told me. Now, my wife works in microbiology and has for the entire time I've known her, and she has her opinions, and she tells me what her opinions are. And there are people who say that the masks don't do any good whatsoever, and some people say, yeah, they do okay. They're not going to stop everything, but it does. I can see where it limits some. It's got to limit some. I mean, I'm not an expert. I'm not, and the people that I'm talking to or people I'm listening to are not experts either. One of the other reasons to do it is it's a placebo. People feel safer. Government's primary job is to mitigate panic. Write that down and put quotes around it, because Michael Bunker's been saying it for 20 years. No matter what they say, it's not to protect and serve. It's not anything else other than controlling the panic urge of the mask man. The panic urge of the mask man is what will destroy everything. And so government is in the business, since there's been government, of stopping the mask man from panicking. And so you do things from the government's point of view that make people feel safe. At the same time, you can also use those same things to control them and to make them recognize that they're being controlled and to not resist. And so all of those things are true. It's not one thing. Someone says, oh, the mask is just a predecessor to the mark of the beast. The mask is just a way to force people to do something and to accept it. The mask is this and the mask is that. I don't care about masks. I don't care one whit. What I'm saying is that we don't know all the information. None of us are really expert. And some people can be an expert in some micro topic and be completely blind as hell and everything else and are not able to put together the data. And we learn that about scientists and experts all the time. Most of the time, they know a lot about a tiny little subject, and yet they don't know how to grow food, and they would starve to death if there wasn't a Whole Foods down the road. So what we want to do is we want to be able to take the data and look at it and go, okay, I understand that the fatality rate for this disease is very, very low. It's also very likely that unless we have an enforced mandatory vaccine, which will be a disaster, that almost everybody's going to get it unless something happens and it mutates itself out of existence. Other than that, most people are going to get it. Almost everybody's going to get better. At some point, we'll have herd immunity. Everything else is what government's doing, and that's the real story. That's what the thing is. It's not the disease. It's the way that governments and masses react to the disease. So I'm not going to sit there and say don't wear a mask. I wear one if I have to, if I'm forced to, or if it looks like since I'm not a libertarian, but I'm libertarian-minded. I believe people have a right to make rules in their own business. And if they're going to force me to wear a mask into Dollar General, I'll put it on. Don't care. And if I don't have to wear one, I'm not going to wear one. If I get sick, I think that obesity, and this is my opinion, is the number one comorbidity. It's the one thing everybody could do something about, or almost everybody, and the government and nobody else is going to tell you to do something about that, or to be healthy, or to get vitamin D, get some sun on your skin. They're not going to tell you to take vitamin D. They're not going to tell you to make sure that you're getting all your vitamins and minerals, that you're boosting your immune system. They're not going to tell you any of that, because that's not controlling panic. There's another book that's called Modern Religious Idols, Nancy. That's not the same book. Swarms of Locusts is one I wrote in 2002. I think Modern Religious Idols was written in 2009 or 10. Both of them very good books. The thing seems to change pretty frequently. Last election was all about the border and immigration. Now nobody even cares. What wall? BLM was the big deal up until recently, but now it's the election. It's always the election But the other things are the way that you move the needle. All right, that's what fear is a great motivator. Now you think about how cowboys move cattle. What you want to do when you want to move cattle is you want a beast, a horse, that is, I hope somebody's not trying to get in here. You want a horse which the cattle are afraid of. So you ride on a horse, but you don't want to spook the cattle. You want them to move, but you want them to move slowly. So you have enough cowboys that you get in front of them, you get beside them, you get behind them, and you get them to move slowly, but you don't want them to be spooked. This is the goal of governments and movements and people that want socialism and Marxism. They generally want to spark events that move the mass man. They move the left, and then they move the right, and then they move the left, and the whole giant stumbles into the fire. And that's the way it works. The thing is always the same. The thing is always people in governments, the mass man in governments, and how those machinations work. Everything else is a means to an end. So the mask, or the pandemic, or the flooding of the border, which is also a type of flooding the floor, which we talked about. They're all linked. They all have to do with elections, and they all have to do with eventually ending elections as a real contextual thing, having any real meaning. So the end, of course, in Cambodia or in Venezuela or in Cuba or in Russia or in China was to have elections, but to have them be meaningless. And that's exactly what we've been going through over the last several election cycles. And the mass man has moved on purpose towards that goal. Too many people, because they're on the left or on the right, and they've been radicalized, have lost sight of the real thing. And they've come to believe that somehow their little point of view, which has been given to them, they don't have the capacity of ideation. They didn't come up with it themselves. They've got their point of view, and their point of view is that we're right, the other side is wrong. We're all going to use the same tactics. We're all going to cheat if we need to, or we're going to not cheat if we need to, or we're all going to, whichever side of the fence you have to be on. But in reality, the strings are being pulled at a higher level. And it's all about moving the mass man. The mass man has moved increasingly in a progressive direction towards socialism and Marxism for 100 years. And that has not stopped no matter what party's in power. What we saw, I believe, with the election of Donald Trump was an outsider who was not playing the game. I could be wrong about that, but it doesn't matter. It seemed like he was outside of it, and he was throwing some wrenches in the work, and things had to be escalated. I could be wrong about all of that. I admit it. I'm just not wrong very often. So we'll wait and see. But it seems like things have been escalated. They've been moved forward faster. America's been stumbling towards Marxism and socialism, and the rest of the world is watching it happen. Some people are cheering it, and some people are not happy about it. Most of the world, if they had any intelligence at all, would be very, very scared at the decapitation of America and it's stumbling into the fire. Because whether they like it or not, America and its engine of productivity and its being a safeguard of Western civilization has increased the level of living for almost everybody, even the poor all around the world, whether you like it or not. And so even though I don't support our concept of democracy, I think the mass man ought not be able to vote unless he owns land. There's a lot of ideas I have that are going to be reprehensible to you. But even then, I can recognize that America has been used mightily to protect what Western civilization has created for the whole rest of the world, for everybody, even the very poor. Socialism and Marxism are an enemy. Everybody thinks that I'm riding the fence because I won't come down, oh, I'm for the Democrats or I'm for the Republicans, because I'm not for either one, Republicans. I'm not for either one of them. I'm for freedom. I'm for being left alone. And I'm against socialism and Marxism. I have been absolutely unequivocal about that. Those are my, other than McDonald's, those are my great enemies. and people that have arguments about corporatism and all those kind of things. Those things have always been used to the benefit of socialism and Marxism. People just don't know enough about their history. All right, y'all, we're at 45 minutes. That's usually about the time we quit. So if you guys have questions and comments, I'll be here for just a little while and be glad to answer your questions at whatever level you want to ask them. If not, remember this. I need you to go to YouTube after this video is over. Write it down. Don't forget. There's so many of you. You could just go over to YouTube in 10 minutes, pull up this video once it goes live, go down into the comment section, into the description. There's a link to the video that I did 2 or 3 days before the election telling you about how cheating was going to happen, or how I knew it was going to happen, and how they do it, what telegraphed it, and we also talk about some scenarios. There's also another link down there to subscribe to my fitness channel, but subscribe to this channel. I need more subscribers. We've got to hit 2,000 so the algorithm starts pushing more viewers in our way. And we're going to grow this thing like a I don't know, something big. I'm a writer who ran out of words, like a big thing. And I'm going to need y'all's help to share the videos and all that kind of stuff. What are some examples of future scenarios that you consider likely? I think we have to do that on another show. We're not running out of time. And so we'll do that on the next show. I do want to talk about Texas, since that's a scenario that I think is very likely and would feed into that. And I told everybody I was going to talk about that, the myth, the legend of Texas turning blue, which was not manifest even the slightest, not even one iota in this election on Tuesday. All right, everybody, I got to go. I appreciate all of you. I love you. As always, subscribe, like, share, comment, do all that stuff. I'll see you again. If not tomorrow, then maybe the next day. But I will see you when I see you. God bless.